In today's episode of the Pathway Presents podcast, I have an interesting guest here with me today. I'm with Ankit Verma, and he's hailing over from the team at MASV. And at MASV, they're doing something interesting. Ultra fast, large file transfer. That is needed, actually. I mean, in a lot of Pathway use cases, it's needed. In the onboarding, in other many cases, it's needed. People always, kind of have to negotiate, like, where do they actually send files? Like, what's their way? So probably MASV will be a major help there. So we're going to learn about MASV today, but also on how you market a product like that, because I'm curious how Ankit is thinking about growth. He's on the content side of things. So we'll have a look in what role content plays for the customer journey from MASV. So welcome to the show, Ankit.
Yeah, thank you for having me, Lucas.
Yeah, of course. And so, before we get into it, maybe give us a 360 overview. What is MASV all about in your own words?
Yeah, for sure. So you sort of said it earlier, we're a ultra large file transfer company. So, file transfer company specifically designed to move really large files quickly and over the cloud. And I'm not talking about like 5 gigabytes, 10 gigabytes. I'm talking hundreds of gigabytes to terabytes of data at once. I like to kind of say, like, an easy way to describe it is we kind of provide the performance of an enterprise product with the simplicity of a cloud app. So you kind of get best of both worlds. And one thing that really helps us stand out is we operate on a pay-as-you-go basis. So as you may be familiar, a lot of file transfer solutions run on a subscription-based model. So you pay monthly. We run on pay-as-you-go. So you don't pay unless your data actually gets delivered and downloaded, which is really, there's a lot of benefit for people who, sometimes they have downtime. Sometimes they have projects that aren't running. So they don't have to pay a monthly fee. They just pay when they use the product. And we serve customers globally, but at the end of the day, we are Canadian at heart. We are a remote-only company, no physical offices, but we have employees stationed all over.
Cool. No, that makes a lot of sense. Now, maybe tell me a little bit, what is the typical use case? I mean, who needs these extra large files? Where do we find those individuals?
Yeah, absolutely. So, I mean, obviously, everyone can benefit from better file transfer, but given our unique ability to move those large files very quickly, our main customers are those inside the media and entertainment industry, specifically post-production houses, creative agencies, and even broadcasters. And the reason being, these people aren't dealing with just 2 gigabyte, 5 gigabyte files. They're dealing with large media files like raw camera footage from heavy duty cinematic cameras that film in 4K, 8K, even 12K resolution sometimes, which is just insane to think about. And the higher the video quality, the larger the file sizes. That's just sort of how things work. These projects are also usually require a fast turnaround time because they're part of a larger production schedule. So that's just why at the end of the day, large file transfer speed and performance is so important to this specific niche.
Yep, that makes a whole lot of sense. And who within those organizations would be the person to discover and bring in MASV? Is that bottom up? Is that project managers? Is that like from the C-suite? Who is bringing in the product?
Yeah, it's a great question. It depends on the organization, but usually we find either an editor brings us in because they're the one who usually receives like the raw camera footage first, and then they're the ones who sort of like conform it and send it over across the rest of the production team. It might be a post-production supervisor who's in charge of the overall post-production atmosphere. Or if the company is a little bit larger, we actually have some of the IT employees discovering MASV. So like a systems admin or a network engineer. So they're kind of mapping out just the overall IT infrastructure for the entire company. And then they bring MASV in as the dedicated file transfer tool.
Very good. I can see. Now, how do they learn about MASV? Like, what would you say is their customer journey? Like, what customer acquisition channels you guys leverage to make them aware of the abilities that MASV has?
Yeah, for sure. So first and foremost is SEO and content. So obviously, as me being the head of content, this is an area I play in a lot. We've always known since the beginning SEO is sort of our key player in growth. So we invest a lot into creating relevant and educational content that just addresses our audience needs, whether it's about file transfer specific or something somewhat related, talking about storage or file formats, or since we work in the media and entertainment space, we get to have a bit more fun and talk about things going on in the industry and how it relates back to MASV. We also work a lot on the technical SEO side, website architecture. And this year, a big focus of ours has even been localization. So we kind of loop all that into kind of the SEO and content world. So that's kind of the main key driver. Aside from that, word of mouth is actually big. And I know that's always hard to pinpoint as a marketer, but post-production is a very big industry, but it's also very well connected. So there's been a lot of times where people, once they experience the benefit of Massive, they just naturally tell their coworkers or their acquaintances, either in person because they know each other, or through forums like Reddit or Quora, even Facebook sometimes. And lastly is, there's a bit of virality in the Massive product itself. A lot of people who've discovered us is because they were sent a link to a Massive download or a Massive upload. So just because of that, they've decided to check us out, and they kind of found common interest, and they became a customer.
That makes a lot of sense. What role do you think the website plays? I mean, you alluded to content already. Like, what role do you attribute to the website in their journey?
So the website is where people can come to actually sign up for the product. So it's the most important channel, definitely, for growth. Yeah.
Okay, very cool. And as a content marketer, like, where do you see a strength of the website versus where do you see room for improvement? Because we got a lot of people on the show that, see the website as an ever moving piece. Like, yeah, where do you see sort of a strength and versus where do you see room for improvement for the website?
I would say for our website in particular, since it's so important to us, we really like to keep people on our website. We're not really interested in creating a bunch of different like sub domains and kind of like looping people off. All of our content, all the information you need is on our website. So I find there's a really big strength there. And sign up is just like one easy button. You just click and you put in your email address. It's nothing complicated or anything like that. Room for improvement side, we are a startup. We're in our growth stage. So when we started, we didn't have as much resources. So when the website was built, there, just weren't some skill sets that were involved in building the website. And now that we're at a larger level, it's about going back and kind of like fixing things, whether it's on the design and branding side or whether it's on the technical SEO side, architecture side. It's actually a lot of what we're doing right now. And like, we're already seeing the changes coming from there in terms of just like faster page load times, better rankings online, more organic traffic. So it's we see challenges, but we're also like we're actively addressing it.
Very cool. I see. Now, in content, like when you think about content, very often content is part of the sort of the early stages in the buyer's journey, the awareness stage, where they're just getting to know you guys. Have you, because you've been in content, we have a lot of marketers that bring a lot of awareness stage type of visitors to the website. What have you learned about what makes a great conversion goal on content? Like, people are exploring a little bit. What have you maybe over the years seen? Like, what makes it actually sense? Because sending them from a blog article to the product can be difficult. Sometimes it works. What's your experience?
At least in my experience and how we track content specifically, we're well aware that one blog post is not going to lead to that conversion. Like if they come in one blog post and like, awesome, I'm going to sign up. We know people are going to be exploring the rest of the site, seeing if the product's worth it, reading our customer stories, watching our video tutorials, our testimonials. So the way we measure content success is we can track like when someone has come in through a blog post and then where else they've gone throughout the site. So that's really how we measure the success, is that piece of content, like when it brought them in, where did they go afterwards? Did they check out another piece of content? And then just slowly track until they eventually obviously hit the sign up button.
Very cool. I see. That makes a lot of sense. Now that we've spoken a bit about the product, now that we're speaking about growth and the channel, so I think how you're thinking about it, I would love to talk a little bit with you about your journey in content and in content marketing. So the first question that I have is, where do you personally go to keep on educating yourself in the content space? Because I mean, quite naturally, there's a lot of content on content. So yeah. Where do you personally like to learn?
I leverage a lot of our just internal teammates. For example, like we hired an SEO manager and an outreach manager this year to join the marketing team. And that was just like this whole entire side of content that I just was never really not aware of, just I was never in tune to, just about like, how content can be formatted and how backlinks and domain rankings and all that kind of stuff works. So that's really been a good way for me to understand. Obviously, there's the online tools about, there's HubSpot, there's all these different resources out there. Like we're a HubSpot customer. So I read any of the resources there. But for me personally, I like to just read and see what other people are doing. It doesn't necessarily have to be another content marketing blog or content marketing site. I find inspiration in just seeing like popular articles, popular blog posts about any subject, and just seeing how people structure those and how they write those and why those are working, how they're formatted. And I find that really influences me a lot.
Very cool. As we slowly moving to an end of the interview, I have some rapid fire questions for you. Are you ready for those?
Sure.
Very good. What is the last book you read?
Last book I read was actually a classic, 1984.
Mm-hmm. What is the one single thing that your company is focused on the most at the moment?
Ooh, there's a lot of focuses. I would say it is.
Or you as a content marketer, even,
right.
you know?
Yeah. It's a bit tricky to, because there's so many like different moving parts. I would say for me as a content marketer right now, it is about optimizing our existing content for that kind of technical SEO angle, in terms of just like updating what we have posted to make it fresh and new, and add more keywords and add more paragraphs, all that kind of fun stuff.
Yeah.
On the company side, yeah.
No, go ahead. I didn't want to interrupt.
Oh no, yeah, I was going to say from the company side, I would say it's since we're a pay-as-you-go model, there's sort of an interesting space we're in, because we can't really pinpoint the customer's behavior. In the past, I know it's supposed to be a rapid fire round, or I'm kind of like talking a bit too much, but it's, since we don't have a subscription model, it's pay-as-you-go. The scenarios are so different every time. It's hard to kind of pinpoint like, yeah, this is the thing that works, so let's build on it. We've seen people join because they have a project that lasts for 3 months, so they'll be a heavy user for 3 months, and then they'll stop because the project is done. Whereas somebody signs up, they don't use our product, and then a year later, something happens, there's this huge uptake, they start sending files every single day, and then they become one of our top performing customers. So I'd say right now it's just kind of figuring out the customer journey, the user behavior, and trying to find those commonalities so we can start executing on them.
Mm-hmm. Very cool. And for the very last question, right, I would like to do a little bit of time travel. So let's go back to the days of, and I hope I pronounce this correctly, Algonquin Educational Institution, basically, where you head off into your path as a writer, as a community coordinator, tapped into marketing. What would be the one advice that you would give yourself for that journey?
Ooh, for that journey, it would be to really understand content marketing from the beginning. Because when I started, I wanted to be a copywriter, like for advertising, like writing headlines and like small copy like that. So I'm like a creative writer by trade. So that's kind of how I got into the journey. And I joined a marketing team, which eventually morphed into content marketing. So I've been self-taught in content marketing, and then my program was never offered. So I would say, if I could give myself advice, it would be to really understand content marketing as a discipline, and not just see it as this creative writing medium, and just understand it from a business perspective early on. So I could bring those in earlier stage.
Very cool. Ankit, I really appreciate you took the time with us today to be a guest on Pathum Presents. I want to give you the very last word, right? If somebody would be forgetting all about MASV that we discussed today, what's the one thing they should remember?
Okay, one thing about MASV they should remember is, well, I'm sure you can probably agree, there's so much video content out there right now, between like movies and TV shows and short form content on TikTok. There's live streams. There's a lot of video content out there, and that number is only going to grow exponentially, and it's going to become more aggressive thanks to better technology, better camera qualities. People have access to more devices. So all that to say, remember, one thing about MASV is MASV can move all that heavy video content with ease. We want to make it so creatives can actually focus on their craft and not have to babysit a file transfer while it's uploading for like 2-3 hours.
Makes a lot of sense. Thank you. Welcome to Journey Pathum Presents.
Thank you so much.